Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show today. So today we're talking about a topic we've never discussed before, and we need to dive into this because it's probably one of the most important for anybody running a business, and it really has to do with general strategy and developing a strategy that is a strategy that can help your business grow into the stratosphere if you want it to. A lot of people get into business not knowing where they're going and not developing a strategy to help them get there. And it's very important that you do so, because if you do so, that's going to get you to your goal. It's going to get you to a successful business even faster. So with us today is Imtiaz Patel. And he spent a number of years as a management consultant with a focus on growth strategy, digital expansion, market entry strategy, and cost reduction. Now, after 10 years as a consultant, he joined Dow Jones Company, leading strategy and analytics in circulation marketing. And during his tenure, the Wall Street Journal became the #1 newspaper in the U.S. and delivered record revenue and profits, with circulation growing while the rest of the industry was shrinking. Now, he was then asked to join the B2B side of the business, where he was responsible for the right sizing the business and developing a new go-to market approach that involved the fundamental redesign of sales processes, analytics, and how products were sold. Now, after leaving Dow Jones, he led strategy and business development at the Children's Place, where he delivered on a number of new growth avenues. After spending the last few years launching and then selling his own businesses, he now runs his own consulting firm, Accelerated Growth Solutions, that specialized in helping companies experience aggressive business growth. Welcome to the show today. I'm glad you could be here.
Thank you so much for having me on your show.
All right. Now, I don't really think I did a very good job of pronouncing your first name, even though I asked you before we started. So go ahead and say it for everybody so everybody hears it the right way and not the way that I said it.
You were fine, but it's Imtiaz Patel.
All right. Imtiaz Patel. All right. I just want to make sure, because I never do good with some names. So, hey, I'm really excited you could be here. I mean, strategy is one of the most important things a business owner needs, but yet, I don't know about you, but I see that a lot of people are not focusing on this.
No, I agree. And, there's a lot of confusion on what is actually strategy. And people think, oh, I put a tactical plan together, that's my strategy. Now, you can think of that as strategy, but it isn't. And but you really have to think about it from the perspective of customers and your competition and your positioning in the marketplace, and that is strategy at the end of the day. It's outward looking, and I think a lot of people don't have the discipline around it or don't feel like they need it.
Yeah, I agree. I think, one of the biggest mistakes I think I see people make in life is that they just don't know where they're going. Like, there's no clear direction of goal of where they're going. And I think if they develop that, then it's easier to develop a strategy behind that to then actually be able to get to where they're going even faster.
Oh, that's absolutely true. I mean, if you have a goal, you need a plan and a strategy to get there. Otherwise, it's really a strategy of hope, and that typically never works. You may get lucky, but it probably won't work.
All right. Well, so let's start with the basics. I mean, let's start with strategy. When we're talking about general strategy here, from your perspective, what is it when it comes to strategy that business owners really need to be focusing on developing?
Yeah, so I think it's really thinking about a couple of things, right? At the end of the day, you're serving a customer. So it's really understanding who your customer is, which specific customer are you going to target. So for example, if you had a business, you could either target a customer based on price, I want to be the cheapest guy in the marketplace, or quality of your product, or something different about your product. So you have to really figure out which customers are going to be interested in that. That's one aspect of it. And then you need to understand, like, if that is the customer I want to get to, is that market size big enough for me? So it might be that you've decided you're going to focus on quality. Well, maybe only 3 customers out of 1,000 care about quality. So that may not be a big enough market for you. So you need to understand the size of the market, the trends of the market. So this is all kind of what's happening in the marketplace, what's happening with your customer set. But at the same time, while you're trying to target someone, you need to understand what's going on with your competition and who else is trying to get a dollar from the same competitor from the same customer that you're going after. So you need to understand what's their positioning, what's their real focus. How are they positioning themselves so you can be somewhat different? Otherwise, if your positioning is exactly the same as your competitor, you're both now head to head in a price game now. It's okay. It might be okay if the market's growing like crazy. So let's take ride sharing. Both Lyft and Uber are essentially the same thing. They have no real difference, but that's okay. This market's growing like crazy. But if you're in a market that's declining or stagnant, you need a clear voice differentiation, and that really is part of strategy. So to me, strategy is about understanding your market, who you're targeting, what does your customer want, who else is targeting them, how are they doing it, and how are you going to be different? And
Okay.
then sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead. My bad. I cut you off.
No, and then it's about aligning internally to deliver on that promise.
And that makes perfect sense. So if somebody's just getting started here, right? Where do you start that? Where do you figure out who your customer avatar is, who your target market is? How do you then start to figure out competition and how big the space is? I mean, where do you think is a good place to start even doing general research?
Well, simple answer is you hire a management consultant. But if that's not the what you want to do, I think you really have to start with, a lot of people jump into business saying, oh, I can do this. I should do this. And that's the business I'm going to start just because I used to do it in the job I had or so on. I can create some version of that. And really what you have to then say is, okay, if that is what I'm going to do, what is the need I am satisfying from a customer? So you say based on that need, who is it exactly that I'm targeting? So, there's a lot of research out there. I mean, Google's fantastic. I personally do, even for my clients, a lot of research on Google to say, okay, try to understand the marketplace at a high level. So let's say, let me use a practical example. So I started a business a number of years ago, focused on, it was in the recruiting space, and we were going to create a business around connecting businesses with consultants. It was a platform. So what we tried to understand is, well, what's the need in the marketplace? Who is using consulting services? What kinds of consultants are they using? Would anyone hire an independent consultant? Why would they hire it? We were trying to understand all of that, and we found a lot of papers online. We went to industry publications. We looked on Harvard Business Review, so we came up with a lot of articles. And then on the flip side, our business model was based on the supply of having enough independent consultants. So we did research on that side of it as well. Well, why would why would someone be an independent consultant? What are they looking to get out of it? What are the trends in the marketplace? Again, did a ton of research, and really this research is out there. We just need to kind of be persistent in finding it. And then we took it to say, okay, there's a lot of consultants. Here's the reasons why they're doing it. There's a lot of companies. Here's why they're doing. Who else is satisfying this need? Who are the competitors? So we basically Googled for independent consulting resources or something like that, and variations of that. And we found a number of firms. We actually went onto their website and tried to understand what's the service they're providing and how they work. And we tried, based on collecting all of this information, we said, okay, is there a different angle to this that we could take that people would care about? And that's how we kind of really started building a strategy around the business.
Well, what about people that have done it wrong? I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are listening to this now and they're thinking, man, I tried to develop the strategy and, did what entrepreneurs do. I just got in and started moving forward. I never really paid attention to my market and these type of things. I mean, what about those people that have done it wrong? What's kind of your advice to get them on the right track?
Well, some people may have done it wrong, but somehow out of sheer luck or just great intuition, they're actually on the right strategy, or the core elements of the strategy are correct, and they're seeing good growth. The question is, could you see more growth if you actually formalized your strategy? I think And then there are people who are just struggling because they're not winning business, or the business is starting to see a decline after an initial level of success. I think they need to go back and actually talk to their customers and say, and really understand from the customers, hey, are we meeting your needs? Are there other needs? Are there things you're looking for that we're not providing? Are you using other vendors, other suppliers for these things? And what are they giving you that we're not giving you? So you could do a survey of your best customers that way. And a lot of customers, if you have a good relationship with them, will be willing to do it. This is if you're, let's say, a B2B customer in a B2B business. You could even kind of create a Survey Monkey. Survey Monkey is like an easy tool to use where you could get out to a lot of these customers. Now, if you're in a B2C business, you want to ask similar questions as well. So there you want to talk to who are your existing, let's say you're a retailer, online retailer, and you've got a business. You want to go to like some of your best customers. You want to look at customers who maybe purchased once and never purchased, and then other people who may not have purchased from you but meet the profile of who, and put a survey together and ask them again, what do we do well? Who else are you buying from? What do they do well? Why don't you buy more from us? What would it take to buy more from us? Things like that. And I think that then becomes the basis of creating a strategy around how you can succeed in the marketplace.
Well, what do you do to keep this updated? Because, you know as well as I do that these things constantly change. So how do you keep your strategy up to date in a quickly moving market, and when probably your own niche is actually changing as well?
Yeah, so one of the things I would say is you don't want to update your strategy quarterly unless there's a fundamental change in the marketplace that necessitates you to do something. So strategy by definition needs to be somewhat long lasting. And I typically think, I like to think in 3-year horizons. I think thinking longer than 3 years, it's just a shot in the dark. But think in 3-year horizons and update it on a yearly basis. So survey your customers on a yearly basis and see if there are any major shifts going on. If there's a new competitor that's come into the marketplace, maybe that necessitates you doing things differently. And the core question you have to get to is, if this is the positioning of my business and this is what I do, does that need to change? And operationally, you've probably set up to deliver. Let's take an example again. Let's say you're Walmart, or a small version of Walmart, and you are competing purely on price, being the lowest cost supplier in the marketplace. And you've set up your supply chain to do that. You can't change that quickly or on a dime. So you want to look at big shifts that mean that you're going to have to fundamentally change your operations. You also want to think about, well, okay, maybe, the economy is doing really well, so there are fewer people focused on price. What else could you now add to enhance your offering for those premium shoppers? Do you create another tier of business, or do you go after a market in another country or different region where there still are low-cost consumers that you can go after and grow? So you've got to kind of survey the customers at least on an annual basis, periodically, and just look at your numbers, see where they're taking you.
Well, what about if you develop a strategy, right? You develop your market, you start going after that market, and then you kind of figure out that it's not working anymore, that it's not working as effective as it is. What factors should you be using, like, KPIs? I mean, what should you be monitoring to make sure that your strategy stays effective in between those time periods that you're checking on it and updating it?
So I think when you develop a strategy, you have to put some goalposts in, milestones about certain level of performance you're going to see as a result of the strategy. So, for example, I should acquire X number of customers. If my strategy is to say I'm really going after market share, you need to be able to hit those market share numbers at different points. And I like to think, well, what's your quarterly goal, monthly goal? annual goal and how you're progressing towards that. Or if it's about, you know what, I don't care about market share, but I care about increasing my sales per customer by, let's say, 20%. Are you able to do that? Are you seeing that? If those metrics are then kind of specific to your strategy, so you need to put them in place. And if you're not seeing them tracking, that tells you you're doing something wrong. Now, you have to ask yourself two questions. One is, is the strategy wrong? And that might be the case, because if you made some assumptions when you put the strategy together, maybe the assumptions were wrong, or you didn't do the analysis. So just saying I have let's say 100 B2B customers, and saying that I think 70% will repurchase with me this year. I need to add 30 new customers, and the existing customers should spend on average 10% more. Well, the assumption you made there is they actually need more services. What's going on with your customer base? So you need to question the assumptions, number one. Number two, maybe your strategy and the assumptions are right, but maybe there's something flawed with your execution. And like we said at the start, the strategy needs to translate into a plan, a tactical plan about what you're going to do, and align the organization to deliver on that. So back to this example, if I have salespeople and my strategy is I want to expand the average value of my customers, well, are we going to do that with our existing products? If the answer is no, we need to add new products. Well, did we develop products that people care about, right? That's an execution issue. Is the compensation and incentive plan for my salespeople aligned with selling more? Or are they still focused, is their compensation still focused on acquiring new customers as opposed to growing your existing? So you have to look at all those factors as well from an execution standpoint.
Very interesting. What about challenges? Where do people get stuck? I mean, you help people do this, and this is a large part of what you do. So when you're helping people, where are you finding that they're getting stuck with developing these kind of strategies? Like, what kind of problems are they facing?
There's a couple of places, and it's a very similar kind of aspect to it as the previous question. So I have clients who want to spend time doing the work and the research to put together a strategy that makes sense. And then in that case, that's typically not a problem. I've also had customers that say, you know what, we know the market really well. We have a good feel for it. Just facilitate us very quickly using your frameworks to get to a strategy. In that case, we're assuming that the internal people really understand what's going on in the marketplace, have a good pulse on it, and that is where sometimes this falls apart. But let's assume they do have a good pulse and you're facilitating them through developing a strategy. The next thing is making sure everything in your organization is there to support the new strategy. So number one, you need to communicate that strategy and the vision to people in the organization. You need them all to come up with plans that align to the strategy. But many years ago, I used to take a class in organizational behavior at business school, and it used to annoy me because my professor kept talking about alignment, and I'm like, it's all about strategy. Forget about the operational aspects. But she was so right. It's so true that you need the organization in perfect alignment with the strategy so that everyone's kind of going down the same path. And that's I would say 75% of the time, that's where the failure comes in. Either they're not aligned or they're not executing quick enough on the plan and strategy.
Which makes a lot of sense. I think as entrepreneurs, we're very good at thinking of a plan and then moving forward, and really sometimes horribly bad at communicating the actual plan to the team. And then somehow we expect them to be on the same page with us. So I could see that could be a big problem. Now, one of the things that I'd seen in your information that's out there is that these war games. So how does that work? Like, what do you have regarding these war games that kind of address the flaws that in these type of strategies? Because it seems like you're using these to kind of figure out how to find the holes in the strategy to be able to make sure that you've accounted for everything.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up. So I love doing these war games, and they're based on the concept of military war games and game theory from economics. And what we do is basically simulate the market environment and competitors trying to get market share. And we create these teams. One team may be the company. So let's say we were doing this with retailers, and let's say the client is Walmart. So there'd be a Walmart team. Maybe we'll put a Target team. So we'll put a couple of teams of traditional competitors like Target and so on. We might put in Amazon as well. You typically always put in Amazon in the retail environment. And then we might put in someone like a startup that has nothing to hold it back and can disrupt the space. And we create cross-functional teams, and we have them play this game where we say, okay, here's information on each one of your companies. Go away for the next few hours and think about how you are going to grow and how you are going to gain market share. And then they come back, they all present it. Now everyone knows what everyone's done. So we think that is a point, one step forward into the future. It's a new reality, and we make them repeat this 3 times. And the concept here really is all these companies have the same kind of people, smart people working for them, thinking about the same issues. So we're simulating the management of those companies. And we give them a good understanding in the capabilities of each company. And what we find is that this becomes highly predictive of what may actually happen in the marketplace and how the market would evolve. So then what that tells us is strategy, unfortunately, is somewhat static in that you're looking at today, you're sitting here today and looking at trends, and you're looking at things, but you don't incorporate human behavior and the whole gaming aspect of it. This allows us to now do that, so it can inform your strategy. So you say, you know what, this is the strategy I was planning to do, but if I did this, I can see that this competitor is going to react this way, which may blunt out my strategy or may make things worse for me. So for example, let's take a simple example. If I'm a retailer and I'm thinking about raising prices on my product, you can see how everyone else will react to that, and if raising your price is a good strategy or not. So it shows the whole dynamism or dynamic nature of the market and how you can then really come up with a plan that also already takes into account how everyone else is going to compete in the marketplace.
You know, one of the things you touched upon there a few minutes ago, and I think it's a really good point, is that, you know, when do you differentiate between when the strategy is incorrect or correct or the execution is? Because I see that happening. You know, in business, we develop strategies, and then in the past, I'm like, oh, that's not working. But then, like you mentioned, then I look back and I'm like, well, the strategy is solid. The problem is the execution was wrong. So what do you recommend to really differentiate to figure out the difference between those two?
That's a really good question, and it's a really tough one. I think part of it, I think, again, it comes back to talking to your customers. Means if there's one thing anyone walks away with from this podcast, is how important it is to really talk to your customers on a periodic basis and understand what they're looking for. If you are giving them everything they're looking for, and they are saying they love you compared to some of your other competitors, and the market hasn't fundamentally changed, and I think that's a key question. Your strategy is probably still on point. If the market has changed for some reasons, maybe there's a new competitor that's come into the marketplace and disrupted. Again, silly example, but retailers all were doing kind of okay, and then suddenly Amazon comes in and the market has now fundamentally changed, or Uber has entered the marketplace, the market has fundamentally changed. You now need to actually revisit your strategy because the basis of competition has changed and you may become irrelevant. So you're looking for A, are you aligned with what the customer wants? And B, has there been a disruption in the marketplace? Or maybe there's been, let's go back to 2007, right? A credit crash. Has that fundamentally changed the market? If those things don't hold, it's probably more likely this might be an execution issue. So then you have to try and trace back which part of the organization, which function is it that the execution is a problem. And ideally what you would have done when you put the strategy together is created a roadmap for its execution and all the different things that needed to be in place, all the key metrics and milestones, and make sure you're heading along those things.
So along that line, I mean, let's say when you're developing an initial strategy, what are the very core things? And you might have already touched upon this as we started the interview, but I didn't hear that we did. What are the very absolute core things that must be part of the strategy? What's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-step framework that without a doubt must absolutely be present for you to develop an effective strategy?
Okay. Number one, understand your customer needs, right? That's where you start and understand, and you may even want to go deeper. So I'll give you an example on the customer needs. So I used to run a business at the Wall Street Journal where we were selling newspapers to hotels. So we would sell to, let's say, Marriott, and Marriott would then require their hotels to carry the Wall Street Journal. Now, what we had to understand, and we actually tripled the size of this business because we understood what Marriott's issues were, because they were all the hotels were really franchisees, so they were customers of Marriott. So we would try to understand what's the problem that Marriott is solving, and then can we help the Marriott at the corporate level solve the problem for the customer? We figured out that it was about trying to save them money and elevating their brand. Once we figured that out, we tripled our business in 18 months. Wow. So understand your direct customer needs, understand the customer's needs. So that's number one. Number two is understand trends in the marketplace. So it's not just about understanding today what is going on, but understanding how things may change, because otherwise all you're doing is solving today's problem and the market and trends may be changing. You need to be solving tomorrow's problem and position yourself for that. Number three, have a clear understanding of who you're competing against. And that may be direct competitors in your space, but it also, you have to think about it. Who else is getting share of wallet? So think of it this way. Let's think about malls, right, for a moment. A lot of people go to malls to shop, but a lot of people go there to spend time, entertainment. It's a thing to do. If I just thought of mall as a place where I'm shopping, I've defined the competitive set in a very narrow perspective. It's other malls or it's online shopping. If I now say, well, it's a place for hanging out, spending time, I've now expanded who my competitive set is. Maybe it's movies, maybe it's restaurants, it's a host of other things. So really understand who your competitive set is, and then define exactly what your positioning in that will be. So those are kind of from a market perspective. Then you got to say, okay, am I internally set up? Do I have the right capabilities to really execute on this plan, the strategy? You have to figure that out. So you lay that down and you put it in milestones, and let's be realistic about how long it's going to take to get there. So those are really, it sounds like there's only three things, but those three things are huge.
Yeah.
And if you fail on any one of those, and you've got a problem.
Well, even the competitor part, I talk to a lot of people that they've niched themselves down. So when you ask them about competition, they're like, I have none. I don't have any direct competitors. And I don't know if you've ever seen that before, but what happens? I mean, how do people really dig in and find their competitors if they think they've niched themselves down so much where they think that they maybe don't have it?
Uh, yeah, everyone has competitors. There is nothing that there are no competitors. There's always someone trying to gain the spend from your customers or the attention of your customers. So you have to start from that point. Again, I go back to kind of thinking about there's two ways to do this. Think about what is the need you're serving with your product, and are there alternative ways of meeting that need? So back to, if I'm serving a need of entertainment, what are the other alternatives to entertainment that they could do? So let's say I sell books, and really it's a way to pass time. It's entertainment. Well, movies are entertainment, radio, music, going to the mall. So you've got to think about what is the core need you're satisfying for your customer and go from there. It's number one. Number two, back to what I've said now a few times, which is talk to your customers. Ask them, if you weren't buying from me, what else would you be doing with that money? Or who else would you be purchasing from? And why is it that you're buying this as opposed to something else? I think if you talk to them and really understand that, you're going to define a very different competitive set.
This has been enlightening. I mean, I think you've broke this down in an amazing way where people can really understand strategy. We've talked about what it is, what you need to focus on, and these are basics. These are fundamental principles that are building blocks of the entire business. Like if you don't get this right, then you're spending tons of time, energy, and money and doing everything wrong. What haven't I asked that I should have asked regarding strategy that you think is important for everybody to hear?
I think we've covered a lot of the core aspects. What I would say is, as you think about your strategy, I think, and you've got that in place and it's humming along, you want to start thinking about growth as well. And there are different ways to grow. What you don't want to change, so let's say you've got a business, well, you can grow in new markets, you can expand products, get into ancillary markets, you can expand your sales force if there's more market opportunity in your current. Think about this in a structural way. What you do not want to change is kind of the core essence of your business and go into a market that is fundamentally different. I'll give you a really simple example here. Years ago, the airlines, I think this was early 90s, a lot of the airlines like Continental, United, all of them, they had a standard business service, and a lot of low-cost carriers were getting into the marketplace. So the airlines thought, oh, we should just create a low-cost airline. So United created TED, and they all singularly failed. And the reason they failed is because the entire operation and the brand was set up to compete at a certain tier. They could not align their operations to be low-cost carriers. That was a fundamentally different business. You have one strategy. You cannot create multiple strategies with different operations unless they're standalone businesses. It is extremely hard. So be really good at one thing and build off that. Again, Walmart, greater price. They can't create a luxury brand. So really think about that.
Well, listen, this has been amazing. Where can everybody go to learn more information about what they need to do, learn from you about developing strategy, dive more in depth into the concepts that we've had a chance to talk about today?
A couple of ways. You could go to my website, which is accgrowthsolutions.com, and contact me through the website there. Or I'd be happy to connect with anyone on LinkedIn as well.
Okay, perfect. So let me make sure I have that right. It's accgrowthsolutions.com.
That's correct.
All right. So listen, everybody, so many people get into business because we're entrepreneurs and we just plow ahead with no regard in a lot of cases. To develop a business plan, to develop your basic foundation. And I can tell you that in business, I've wasted millions of dollars chasing the wrong people only to figure out that my strategies and things were somewhat sound. It's just I had messed up part of them, like the avatar was messed up, or I really didn't properly understand who my competition was. So this is so important. These are fundamental building blocks for you to have the right path to success. If you don't get this stuff right, if you don't get the strategy right, if you don't understand the niche that you're in, your customers, what their wants are, what their needs are, who your competition is, then unfortunately you're behind the eight ball as you're trying to move forward and build a business. So remember, none of this means anything unless you take action. So make sure you visit accgrowthsolutions.com to be able to learn more. Hey, thanks for coming on today. This has been a very, very, very enlightening interview.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So make sure, everybody, you visit accgrowthsolutions.com. That's accgrowthsolutions.com. Tons of great information there that can help you develop a strategy, help you build the right fundamental building blocks that you need to be able to have a successful business. So make sure, everybody, you visit accgrowthsolutions.com. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.